get started tonight. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open. Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Tonight is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. We're holding some budget hearings tonight. On the agenda tonight, we have we're supposed to have the planning department, building department, animal control, and golf, if they can make it. So what we'll do is we'll start with the planning department and Mr. Merritt, the building commissioner, since he's here, and the floor is yours, Mr. Merritt.
Thanks. Well, I'm not sure exactly where to start, but I know that there are a few modifications to my budget. The largest ones, of course, are because of the e-permitting software that we've implemented this year. There's a cell data plan which allows us to access our computers out on the field. We're anticipating that to be around $1,000 for 3 inspectors who have the iPads. And then the e-permitting software, we know the annual cost is between $11,000 and $12,000 a year. So that's added to it. Going into the town buildings, you know, the amount of responsibility we've taken on over the years as far as maintenance of the buildings, we've made a modest increase of 0.92% to increase it from $12,057 to $13,000. Other than that, the only other modification we've made is to add $1,000, which is really postage and supplies. And that really doesn't have anything to do with me. That's town-wide. And our feeling really is because so much has gone out in the mail this year because of the virus. I mean, already to date, we've spent $24,156. We still have 4 months to go. We probably won't need it next year if things return a little bit to normal, but I'm still anticipating that will be a little bit higher than we have been in the past. So, and that's pretty much both of my budgets.
Hey, Jim, what was the town buildings change that you have? Because I don't think we have those in here.
I'm sorry, Julie?
For town buildings, you said the salaries temporary went up to 13,000. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, I had given that, I sent that in to you and Mel. You know, last year we got $12,057. Of course, we're above that, but that had more to do with, you know, the additional work that we had our seasonal help do as far as, you know, the Christmas tree lights and those kinds of things. We kept them on for a variety of other projects that we were doing to help, you know, boost feeling in the community because of COVID. But all in all, I think, you know, $13,000 would get me to where we need to do to be able to maintain, you know, the outside, the lawns, the gardens of all the buildings that we take care of.
Yep. And then what was the amount that you had for postage? Because I don't have that. I had everything level funded for the town buildings.
I just had it at 30,000. Last year it was 29. So we increased it $1,000. But again, when I went back to look at what we've spent already to date, you know, we're already at 24,000 with 4 months to go. We're spending about $2,500 a month in postage and handling. That's because we're sending so much out in all departments by mail.
Yeah. Agreed. I just wanted to make sure I have that. I have that in there, what you have.
So Julie, what do we have for the total budget then?
So if I just update the 13,000 for the top, it looks like a 0.4% overall increase. So the department total is 219,178.
Okay.
And so you guys know too, whenever there are changes, we'll get we have like a cover page going with all the changes that are different from your book. And like all the pages that go along with it. So you guys will get that so you can update your books.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Merritt?
I just have one. building permits, are they down this year?
Oh, John, they were way up. We issued more building permits this year than in the 14 years I've been here. It was an extremely busy year. And that was even, accessing so much remotely. The building industry has been crazy. Of course, a lot of that's due to so many people being home, working remotely from home, having opportunities, if they were unemployed, to do projects on their own dwellings.
Do you know off the top of your head how many of those were for new construction?
Well, for new homes, we're probably up around near 24, 25 new homes.
Reason I think I'll raise this issue on the under old business, because if we're trying to calculate new.
We can't hear you.
John, I think you muted yourself.
He's not muted. I think he's just.
Could be his
lost his
internet,
life.
his connection.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to bring up the new growth though, is
Yeah.
what it sounded like.
This
He
is
was,
to discuss a recalculation, on the new growth figure.
John, we missed a lot of what you said. I think your connection kind of went out. Do you want to just repeat that?
If I can get closer, okay? What we heard last week when we talked, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
That we were talking about the new growth figure. And I was under the impression, I heard, and maybe I heard incorrectly, that building permits under new construction were down. And therefore, the new growth figure was lower. Now I'm hearing that new construction permits are up, and we're having a great deal of activity. So therefore, I'm going to, I wasn't satisfied with the the way it was explained how the new growth figure was derived at. So maybe I'll continue this discussion under old business, but I really want to, I don't continue with, with this present, presentation we have now.
Yeah, I'm not sure, John, where you would have gotten those figures from, because we did do more business this year.
No, I can't. My volume's totally gone now.
How would you like? me
Oh,
to
I'm not
do?
doubting you.
I mean, I can produce the figures and give them into Julie tomorrow so she can distribute them to everybody. But I don't know where the information came from that new growth was down, but new growth is not down. We also have a lot of solar farms that are in the process now, which won't go on until obviously next year, but the value of those units are in the millions of dollars.
Any other questions for Mr. Merritt while we have him? Mr. Merritt, I have a question for you with regards to the solar farms. So how will the town benefit directly economically with that?
Well, the nice part of it is that, all the properties are really vacant properties. So you're putting millions of dollars of personal property instead of real estate on those parcels of land. And they, most all the agreements are over a 20-year time period. They do depreciate over a while, but as far as that affects the finances of the town, either Julie or Kelly Koska could answer those questions better than I could.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, Kelly is the expert with that, but I mean, I know that obviously the personal property value of the panels is a tremendous increase in the first years. But the problem with it is that it decreases very fast. Unlike your real estate that depreciates slowly over time, the personal property depreciates quicker. And that's why a lot of times with solar properties, you see like a pilot agreement. It is something that the selectmen are going to look into and see more about. But that's typically why a pilot agreement would be put in place so that it levels off and it makes it easy for the solar group to plan what the taxes will be every year. And then the town can plan it as well.
Can I ask a question? On the solar farms, do the personnel that own the property pay all the bills, or do they lease it out to the solar farm, solar people?
In most cases, Bob, they do lease it to the property owner.
Okay,
my
now who pays
understanding-
the taxes on it? The property owner or the leaser?
Probably, well, the real estate taxes would always, I believe. would
Yeah,
always
real
go to
estate
the
taxes, I
property
can see
owner.
that.
The personal property tax would go to the developer.
Okay, I see. All right. So the owner of the property would just pay his regular real estate tax, and the person that the company that's leasing the property will be held for the taxes on the property. I mean
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it's my understanding that there's almost about.
So it's a double whammy. The town-
$23,000 a year
Yeah.
in lease agreements between the solar companies and the property owners per megawatt.
Yeah.
Some of these facilities are 3 and 4 megawatt. So the landowners are pulling in $80,000 to $100,000. So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mr. Merritt, for presenting your budget tonight. We're not going to be voting on the budgets tonight, but if we have any additional questions prior to us voting, we'll be in touch with you if necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Okay, next on the agenda, we're going to have our Animal Control Officer, Miss Rebecca Tomlinson, go over her budget.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Basically, it's pretty much staying the same as it was last year, except for the fact that through miscommunication, because of COVID, we wiped out R&M equipment to zero, as well as board services to zero. And I would like those just re-implemented.
Has that been placed in the budget?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Has that been placed in the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
It was in the budget previously, but last year they got zero. Those two line items got zeroed out. And I would just like the same amount that's been in there in the previous year, just re-implemented, which would be the $700 for the R&M, even though I am getting a new vehicle due to COVID. Vehicle has been delayed. I should be getting sometime in the spring, and $1,000 for the board services for boarding of the dogs, any strays that I may pick up.
It doesn't, sorry, question. It doesn't look like we've ever spent the $1,000 on the board services. So it looks like we've always spent actually no more than $375 a year. So I'm just trying to understand the 1,000.
That was just a number that we had put in there. I can't really say what is going to happen every year. Through dog licensing, Fortunately, a lot of my dogs, when they do get loose, the owners are out there looking for their dogs right away, and they are contacting me.
Mhm.
And if I pick up the animal, and because of the tag, I obviously would give it back to the owner rather than take it to the shelter and have it spend some time at the shelter. Don't have to do that. So that was a number that we had just plugged in, was the $1,000.
And yeah, understood. I'm just wondering if maybe since it's never, I don't know, based on what I can see, Julie, we've never come close to the 1,000. Couldn't that number be dropped? And still be comfortable within, even if we just take the highest, which is 375 for 2019.
Would like $500 be a good number to give it some cushion?
That's what if that's what you would like to do, I would feel comfortable with the $500, because again, I don't have any idea what each and every day brings. So I would be comfortable with $500.
And yeah, and obviously with the repair and maintenance, I'm sorry, you said you're gonna get the new vehicle sometime in the spring, so before this fiscal year kicks in.
That's what we're hoping.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. There were just some delays because of COVID.
okay. So we probably wouldn't need the full 700 for repairs and maintenance if that's primarily on the vehicle. You hope, or at least anything that happens on the vehicle should be covered through
Repair
warranty.
maintenance also covers equipment. So
Okay,
we are going to be, hopefully with what the amount of money that we secured for the vehicle, I'm hoping that's going to be enough for everything that's going to be done, because with the truck coming in, it's not going to be fully to my expectations. We are going to have to make some adjustments.
So Rebecca, the adjustments you're talking about to the truck, like the modifications,
Yes.
any idea of the cost?
Not really. I was talking to Dan Menard from the DPW, the superintendent, and he is going to be able to help me out to do the things that we want to do. We copycatted another ACO vehicle that is basically the same make and model that we are ordering. And rather than reinvent the wheel, we're just going to copycat what they did. And that's just going to be a modification to the inside, to section for my tools and such, and my equipment. And obviously we have to have the lights and the radio put in, and that should be covered. That shouldn't be a problem. That's why we put in the amount of money that we did for the vehicle.
Okay,
But this
thank you.
is going to be for any other subsequents that may come along.
Well, it looks like that a couple of years ago, you'd spent 666. Is that similar to what you're talking about, or was that something different?
For the R&M?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that would have been different monies that different equipment that I needed. That also covers, let's look down here. Under that also goes any equipment that I need with cages or traps. That all goes under that line item. That's what I have utilized that for in the past as well, for my equipment when I'm trapping. And
I'm just trying to understand, like when you get a new vehicle, you get these expenses up front, and you modify the vehicle, and then looks like you assess, the next years you don't have much, and then something changes. I'm trying to figure out the 700 is reasonable or not based upon history, or that's not really even relevant to history.
Is going to be for any of my oil changes, maintenance of the vehicle, and then, like I said, any equipment that I may need for the vehicle. I have, I believe, out of that line item, and Melissa, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I have gotten my trash bags out of there for my deceased animals that I have to put on the street. But now we no longer bury the animals. That's why we've implemented the other line item, carcass removal, And this is my first year of using that. So we estimated that at $1,000, at $250 a pickup. And we figured that 4 pickups a year would be good. And I am going to be needing a new freezer at some point down the line to put my deceased animals in.
I'm comfortable with what she's got there.
And does anybody else have any questions for Rebecca? Okay, if there are no other questions, Rebecca, we won't be voting on the budget tonight, but if we have any questions in the next few weeks, we'll be in touch if we need to, okay? But thank you for joining us tonight and presenting your budget.
Thank you so much and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is going to be the golf department, and it looks like Mr. Steve Tibbetts is here with us, the superintendent of our golf course. So Steve, if you want to discuss your budget.
Well, where would you like to start? When we initiated the budget process, we were both basically told to stay in the same budget that we had last year.
Well, how about if we highlight any increases?
All right. Well, I mean, outside of pay rate increases, there are only significant increases, really only on the order of 1,000 to maybe 500, depending on the category, whether it be irrigation repairs or whether it be seed and top dressing. We did have one increase above the others, which was rentals and leasing, because we outsourced some different operations in the coming years. And we took some items out of categories that they didn't belong in and put them into that rental lease. For instance, renting the compressor to blow out our irrigation system was in the irrigation budget, but it should have been in the rental and lease budget. But as I go down the list, we had an increase in longevity just to be in line with the payments that increased for both Dana and myself, as well as including my assistant in that program, since he's been employed to the point where he would step up one level, I believe. Fringe benefits, we left the same. Our energy and utility bill, it increased by $250. I'm hoping that's adequate. We do have, when it is colder, such as this past winter, we're usually, to heat that building, it cost us anywhere from $800 to $900 a month. We usually get 2 propane deliveries, and that's with keeping the thermostat at 62 during the day and 50 overnight. But just because of the design of the building and the lack of the insulation, and keeping the heated air inside the building, we tend to have about that expense each month, heating wise. So what I figured was on tried to figure an possible increase in fuel expense and propane expense, and figured that into the budget. Our repair and maintenance for our equipment stayed the same. As I mentioned, our rentals and leases went up. In that particular category, we have, as I mentioned earlier, the rental for our pump station remote. We do some outsourcing for greens aeration with a particular type of machine that we don't own. And we have support for our irrigation system software and hardware coming out of that category. And we do leave about $300 for miscellaneous rentals. So that category went up slightly because of the switching items in there. For instance, like I mentioned, the compressor was $860. The Playbook pesticide software is software that allows us to maintain our pesticide inventory as well as our applications for the state of, not to maintain those records so we can report at the end of the year to the state. And also so we are prepared at any time during the course of the year that the state might decide to come by and audit us. Then moving on, really, I said, it was a $500 increase in irrigation maintenance and repair. Really not significant there. Our fuel expense, I had anticipated making an increase in that. We held that at $20,000. I was hoping to get an increase because it looks as though the price of fuel is going to go up, but we didn't include that increase. Seed and top dressing, there was a $1,000 increase there. That was for our top dressing sand, and also to provide the sand that's going to be injected into the greens through our greens dry eject, which comes later in the year in September. Other than that, and then the fertilizer and pesticide expenses went up just based on the recommendations from the suppliers that I deal with on what the costs of materials are going to do, are going to go up this coming season. So having spoken with them, gotten their recommendations, it was about a 2 to 3% increase. So that was what's reflected in the $1,000 in the fertility and wetting agent budget and the $1,500 in the pesticide, and PGR stands for plant growth regulator. That's the other portion of that budget. In order to keep in line with that request to keep our budget similar to what it was last year, we reduced our bunker restoration account by $2,000 to help keep close in line with that. So again, and our pay rate increases are based, we have two different, we have myself and my assistant that are based on what the selectmen propose for supervisory personnel, normally what they propose each year. And the maintenance staff is on a grade and step plan, and the step goes up for all my equipment operators this year. So we had a larger increase there. And I do tend to probably, I've got, at the end of the season, I've got one full-time person who's going to retire and probably another part-time. So I'm going to have to fill those positions at some point. And our budget numbers for the salaries for our maintenance employees, that number goes up January 1st, as opposed to following the June to July town budget, because that number is supposed to go up reflective of the annual increase that may occur in the minimum wage that the state program was for going up on a regular basis. That the golf committee came up with that. I believe the last year that Brian was the town administrator. I think that was the last year when we came up with that pay rate scale. We did reduce our capital expenses to stay in line with the budget that we had last year. And that budget that we're referring to is we initially started out the year with a proposed budget, and then when we ran into all the COVID situations, Julie asked for a reduced budget, and the reduced budget is the one that we're anticipating matching going forward for FY 2022.
Go ahead, John.
Did you have a hit on the on due to COVID?
Not really. I didn't have, our hit was more trying to figure out how we were going to get things done. I didn't bring on any new staff. I didn't lose any staff. We had some different working hours to accommodate what we were trying to get done with the number of people we had. And as far as other expenses, I really didn't have any significant expenses COVID related. Actually had some reduction in costs because we weren't putting ball washers out, we weren't putting water coolers out, we weren't doing those types of services out on the course, which incurred interaction with people. So but overall, I don't think we incurred any significant extra expense because of the COVID situation.
The reason I asked that question is that with this Relief Act funds that we'll talk about later, we probably have to ascertain how much of financial impact, negative impact on our or on our income in town, and probably can be compensated for it. So that's why I'm asking, I think we should be asking that question for, on a few departments.
We didn't.
Probably Julie can work out those figures better than I, better than I can. But I think that, that's going to be one of the big questions in the next couple of months.
Well, we did, like I said, we didn't incur any extra expenses, but obviously we did lose revenue.
Okay, that is something that we can probably be compensated for.
I mean, we lost an entire month, and not only did we lose that month, but we lost rounds due to outings, and we also lost. One of the biggest impacts it had on us was the initial phasing in when they went to single rider golf carts. Because we have 74 golf carts, but we were out of golf carts by 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning, because everybody had to take a single golf cart, which had an impact on the number of people we can get on the golf course and the number of people that we can keep moving on the golf course. But as far as actually my department spending extra money because of COVID, we had some extra cleaning expenses, but I don't think they're on the order of what many of the other departments in town may have had. Our biggest impact because of COVID was loss of revenue. And then again, though, once we did open, it was one of the few things that people could do outside. So, once people got back and got comfortable, I mean, we were pumping 230 people through that golf course a day, 7 days a week. We had a lot of play. And in the end, it may have cost me a little bit more plant protectant wise and fertility wise, because the long and short was the turf was taking a beating from all the extra golf courts, but all the carts, but also all the extra play. But really, quantitatively speaking, I don't think it was in excess of $500 to $600. That's why I didn't bother to really make an issue about it, because we have fluctuations like that annually, a lot of times based on weather, based on disease pressure, based on just overall turf health that causes some portions of our budget to fluctuate and not. And it wasn't significantly out of the ordinary. So basically we lost revenue. Now Dana may have had some extra expenses because he's involved, with having to service golf carts and what have you. He was involved with a little bit more cleaning and sanitation than I may have been involved, because I have basically my staff using our equipment and that's it. So.
We probably want to develop a income loss figure for the future. That was going through my mind.
Hey, Mel.
I'm sure, we could probably take and look past, take average rounds and get some type of forecast.
Mel, can you tell us what their year-to-date revenue is and how that compares to same period last year?
Me personally, no. That's not within.
I was asking Mel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's
You're on
on.
mute,
I can't
Jill.
hear you, though. you
Yeah, if you just
are.
give me a couple of minutes, I'll pull up the reports while you guys.
All right, and
Okay.
listen, I'd also like to know what the debt balance is on that and what's the loan maturity?
Oh, I don't know the loan maturity and all that. That would,
All right,
do you know that stuff, Julia? Is that
Yeah, I
that's a-
haven't.
oh, okay, I'll work on the other part.
all right, thank you.
We extended the loan out, didn't we?
I only, I asked because what I'm hearing through the grapevine is that the golf course had a heck of a year.
We did.
So to say we've lost revenue, I'm not sure I buy into that, but we'll see.
Well, what I'm saying, he asked what the impact that COVID may have had. And as I had mentioned initially at the beginning of the year, when you lose an entire month, you're losing revenue.
Yeah.
Again, and our revenue, if you look at the way our year is set up, technically speaking, I mean, it hit us at a hard time. And you can ask Bob, because we were coming out of the end of the
That's
year.
right.
We were $80,000 ahead going into January and February, and we barely broke even if we did by the end of the year. So did it have an impact? Yes, but our significant or substantial year of revenue started with June 1st and moving forward. I mean, April, we weren't open. May, you have half a month, so you have May and June, then revenue's done, and then it picks up again for July moving forward. And we really did do very well July, August, and September, and October, and November. No
Yeah,
question.
the place was packed.
Yeah.
So
Right,
I have a
but-
question. I have a question for Steve. So at the end of the day, did the number of rounds played almost even out by the end of the season? Or was
Well,
it still
yeah,
doing-
I don't think, I mean, we're up in rounds, but again, when you're comparing rounds played for us, as far as our budget works, our rounds played start in July 1st and go to June 30th of the following year, which really doesn't match with the golf season at all. And that's what makes it difficult to compare what we lost in April, because it's in a different budget year. But no, right now, if we were to go on an annual basis, we're up in rounds substantially to what we normally have. I don't have those round numbers for you. I personally don't keep track of that. Dana does, so I can't give you those numbers. I don't know if they might be reflected in the numbers that Melissa was going to look at. I'm not sure if that's.
Sorry, my internet's moving so slow right now.
Oh,
Yeah, I think last year was probably one of those years you'd put an asterisk next to the year because of everything that we were going through. And hopefully this year, people are going to be dying to get outside and want to play a lot of golf. Hopefully the weather cooperates and it'll be like a little bit of a catch up. Hopefully.
Well, that's what happened when they opened up the course. I mean,
Yeah.
People couldn't, they were standing in line to get in there. It was crazy, hard to get a shot to play.
Yeah, we saw a lot of new faces too, so I'm hoping
Oh, definitely, yeah.
it continues as we pick up here as we open up next week.
And we lost a lot of the outings, actually.
Julie, I got a question.
Yeah, we lost all of them.
How many years left on the bond?
No, I'm trying to get it, but I can't get on the VPN.
Okay.
I just finally got on it.
What was it? Another 4 or 5 years or
So
so.
if you look on the drive that I gave you access to, there's a
Yeah.
folder called debt
Oh,
that if you pull that up, it'll tell you on the side the years that they mature. I just can't get on the VPN.
oh, I just got kicked off. Shoot. Okay.
you can follow
on.
up by email or something. That's fine.
Yeah, I think it was, if I'm just off the top of my head, I think it was like 2026 or 2027. It's in the 20s. It's relatively soon.
I think the last time it was refinanced, it was I think it's 27 or possibly 28, but I'm
That's
pretty
what I
sure
thought, yeah.
27, yeah.
And that's fully
Yeah.
amortizing, right? It's not like
Yeah.
you had a 10-year note, 20-year amortization or something. It's fully done in 27.
Final payment date would be in 2026 or
Okay.
2027, yes.
All right.
Mhm.
So the revenue now, Julie, please tell me if I'm doing something wrong here. I'm doing all the pro fees and all the revenues with the merchandise and the beverage sales. For 19, for fiscal year 19, I have 1.46. And for FY 20, I have 1.27.
Okay,
So it seems like 19, we had more in revenue than
yep,
in 20.
okay.
Now let me see if well, you guys, I might as well just see if I can get back on the VPN because I've been on it all day. I don't know why it's being weird.
Well, no, same with mine, sorry.
That probably relates to the whole month being closed, I would imagine.
Yeah, and remember too, golf is an enterprise fund. So when they were shut down and they didn't have expenses, even though they weren't making revenue, if their expenses were down too, they kind of even themselves out at the end. So they could do well and have excess revenue because they had less expenses,
Right.
or their expenditures were cut or frozen, and that could lead to more revenue for them as well. So
I mean, the expenses for carrying on and playing golf were frozen. But one of the issues that we had early on, which the whole golf community in the state spoke to the governor about, was the fact that we just can't stop cutting grass. We just can't stop fertilizing. We just can't stop treating pesticide issues. So our expenses in those particular categories continued on, irrespective of whether we had any golfers, because if we stopped those activities, then we would not have had much of a golf course for people to come back to and play. So my payroll was still going, my pesticide fertility budget was still going, irrigation budget, irrigation electricity expense, and so on. So we kept that going the whole time we were closed, because in order, or so we could be prepared when we were actually allowed to be open again.
Okay, I'm in it now, finally. Okay. You said it's a debt exclusion folder you have, Jules?
yeah, the one that says debt, not debt exclusion, just debt.
Okay,
Just debt.
regular debt. Okay, got it. Just pulled up.
And if you pull up the whichever one says debt payments, the most recent one, that one will have when it comes up, it should have the dates next to all of them.
Debt payments. Okay, see it. Yep, this one for 20. All right. I wish I knew how to share screen. So it's just low. Wow, it's taking a minute. Okay. Okay, so now I see water, sewer. Let's find golf. Okay, golf course, original debt. There's a second refunding and then irrigation project.
Yep.
So that one says,
It should be all the way,
oh, it says 2020, February of 20.
all the way to the left. Like one of the first cells should have.
It's on the laptop. It's so small. Okay, are you kidding me? I know how to use a computer, guys.
Mel, it's no big deal. Do it by
No, it's right
email.
here. I came this close, Gail. Right here. For the original debt second refunding, it says August of 2027. And irrigation project says August of 2024.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Sorry about that.
Do you have balances? No. What the debt balance is?
That spreadsheet doesn't have them. We can get them from the treasurer's office though. She has
Alright.
like a full, she can actually get you guys a full debt package so you can see what the current balances are and everything.
Okay, thank you.
I'll work on that to get that over.
Does anybody else have any questions for Steve? Okay, Steve, we're not going to be voting on the budget tonight. If we have any questions over the next few weeks before we take any votes, we'll be in touch. But thank you for presenting your budget tonight. Much appreciated.
Sure. Well, it's nice to be asked. I think this is the second year in a row.
Thank you.
I've been there 21 years, so thanks.
We'll do it again next year.
Yeah. I should be there,
All
God
right.
willing.
We hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, so next would be any old business to discuss?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I missed part of the discussion with the building inspector. But I just want to bring out an item, an item that deserves a second look, and that was on the new growth figure that we had. And according to our handbook, the Finance Committee handbook, the taxing capacity added by new construction and other increases in the property tax base. New growth is calculated by multiplying the value associated with new construction by the tax rate of the previous fiscal year. So there's some methodology in reaching that figure, and I think I got the impression in the discussion with the assessor that she had some flexibility. She was lowballing the figure in order for prudence, which I agree with her by the way. It's not, but I think that I think it deserves a second look, especially after we've heard that there has been additional new constructions.
So if I can, I agree with you that it should have a second look. I know Melissa and I both questioned Kelly on the same thing because it's lower than it was last year and it's lower than, our average is at least 250,000. We have to go by what the assessor says, but I will say that there's still, assessments taking place until June 30th. So that's where the assessor has some flexibility. She can look and see what she has right now for new growth and do that calculation. And that's what she'll typically look at when she gives us a figure. But until the year is completed, there could be new things that come in. And that's why it's an estimate. And, she tries to be conservative. She doesn't want to put in a number and then we don't reach that point. But it is kind of floating until the end of the fiscal year because all of that, whatever new growth comes in through the end of the fiscal year will still get calculated into that total.
Yeah, but the impression I get from the information in the Finance Committee handbook is that it's not that much flexibility as you're stating.
It's not that there's
the methodology that's derived at, and to get that figure.
Yeah, I agree. There's no flexibility. It's a calculation, but what she's looking at right now is an estimate that hasn't been completed yet. So that's where, I don't know if she used the term flexibility or not, but that's where she has to come up with an estimate and she needs to be conservative with it because we don't want to be short revenue when we do it.
Yeah, but she did state that she lowballed the figure in order to be, to have a safe figure.
Yeah.
So,
Julie, I would say this. She said that we had 10 new homes coming online, and we have a building inspector telling us there were between 24 and 25 new home permits. So I think that number needs to get looked at, like where it's such a big difference. That's my only 2 cents.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and we'll follow up with her again. But at the end of the day, too, when we file with the DOR and when we do the recap, we have to show proof of what the assessor gave us for those figures. So like every year, we'll always have to give it the email that Kelly sends us with all of her estimates on it. So it would have to come from her. Like we wouldn't be able to change it on our own. It would have to come from her that she's authorizing the change. So we'll definitely keep that because I agree. Melissa and I both talked about it. I know we followed up with Kelly early on. And I think as time goes on, if we get closer to town meeting and Kelly sees that she already has 250,000 of new growth, and so she can raise it, comfortably, then we'll do that. But we'll definitely keep that on the radar.
Thanks, Julie. So do you think we can get a little bit of clarity on that issue before we actually vote on that budget?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, you good with that, John?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. All right, under new business, Julie, I have a question for you. It was brought to my attention about an issue with a street light on the corner of Birch Street and Middle Road. Has that been addressed?
I mean, I know that there's one that we've looked at before. I'll follow up. Jim actually would have been a good person to ask. He's the one that manages all the streetlights, and I know
Oh, okay, shoot.
with the DPW, because I know that we use National Grid or Eversource because they're all the LEDs, and so whichever vendor we use, we kind of wait till we have a few of them that are out, and then they'll come and do it. But I know if it's the one I've gotten a few emails about, it's definitely been followed up on. So I'll
Okay.
check on that again.
Yeah,
Here
I
we
guess
are.
there was, I don't know if the light has been out, but I guess there was like an accident where the vehicle drove up onto the front lawn and ended up taking out the front porch of the person's house, I guess.
What were the streets?
The corner of Birch Street and Middle Road.
Okay. I'll check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
anyone else have any new business to bring up?
I just want to just raise an issue. The COVID bill was being signed, I guess, this evening by President Biden. That bill provides for $8 billion to come to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, just for local and state government. There was a lot of other money in there for other purposes. For schools, that's above that. About $3 billion of that dollars must be appropriated to local governments. Now, this amount of money is like a lawmaker's dream come true. In the sense is the guidelines are very flexible. They are meant for economic stimulus, not a Band-Aid for approach, for just dealing with specific COVID issues. Can be used, for example, for development of downtown, for water and sewer purposes, for a lot of other items which lead to economic stimulus in this community. So it pays. But right now they haven't developed a plan yet. The state legislators, they're all ecstatic about the flexibility and the amount they got and how it's going to be distributed. The governor has no plan yet. Well, he doesn't have a plan on anything, but he still doesn't have a plan on this either. But it seems that we're going to be dealing with this issue, and I don't know if the planning board is going to be talking with us, because with the absence of a master plan, which we could have just taken some of that money and used for some of the purposes of so we're going to really have to develop a very quick master plan, probably, and the use of that money, and it could provide the relief that for this budget. So I just want to try to raise the issue so we can keep the eye on the ball, because it's certainly a big ball, so to speak.
Agreed. I mean, I will say I don't have there's no info on it yet, so I don't have anything concrete to give you, but.
Now, there was a report in the Boston Globe today, so there's now information starting to filter in, but I think the legislature is going to be dealing with this issue. Yeah. So that means it's going to be a legislative item, which comes into, I don't know how it will be distributed to the cities and towns, but certainly we should have watching that very closely to see how the impact, how it impact this fiscal year. And we should be ready to do that. Because a lot of communities, in my experience, when you get a large amount of federal or state money, sometimes they're not prepared, and they forego the opportunity of using it. So I don't think we should allow this opportunity to escape us. It's a big one, and means a lot to this community.
I agree. And obviously, as we get more information too, we'll pass it on to you guys, but I agreed to be prepared. Master plan would have been really helpful to, kind of guide us on this. I will say we are in the middle of the MVP planning grant, and it's not a master plan, but it follows the same kind of path as a master plan, and that's starting up this Friday and next Friday for anyone who's interested in participating. We have to have a few sessions similar to the master plan where, we have community involvement, kind of raising issues that are going on in town, and the MVP focuses on climate change. And so any type of issue in town that's current or could come up in the future that would be related to climate change would be something that we can include in our plan for the MVP. And we kind of go through the process, create a plan just like the master plan, identify, I think it's like 7 or 8 issues that we want to focus on. And once we complete the plan, we can apply for action grants that specifically address those issues that we've listed in our plan. And you can get grants up to $2 million to, fix whatever items are in your plan. So it's along the same lines of what you're talking about, and a lot of the things that you mentioned are things that I think would be covered in the MVP grant. So I'm just kind of mentioning that here. If anyone wants to participate this Friday, next Friday, we'll be having that kind of group community conference. It's kind of long. It's from 9 to 1. They're 4-hour meetings, but any participation is helpful. So I'll throw that out there too.
I think we should watch very closely is trying to use those funds to supplement our budget, the town's budget, and so we can not face any type of reductions, but going forward with a lot of the initiatives that we dreamed of doing, and that is basically, I think, the amount of money we may have, we may be able to realize that.
John, I'd just like to add my opinion on this. All this COVID money, this huge $2 trillion bill, unfortunately, a lot of this money is not being spent directly on COVID relief. A lot of it is going to be utilized to bail out cities, municipalities who fiscally mismanage things, unfortunately. But that's the nature of this, and this is what happens when you got big government.
Only 9% is going.
Well, it depends on the opinion of what. I'm sorry to cutting in, but it depends on what you're saying about COVID relief. If you're looking specifically of putting shots in arms as the relief, and that's it, it's a narrow approach. The reason I raised the point, like say with the golf course, that we did have some income loss, even though they're doing well and made up for it. Still, if we say increase by 10%, we probably would have increased by 15%. That 5%, I think, is a reimbursable item. So I think it's really an economic stimulus package.
It's basically,
and it's not a as I said, it's not a strictly just a dealing with a pandemic narrow issue. It's a broad basis. Yes, I think we just got to take full advantage of it, because many communities are not prepared, in my estimation, of being able to deal with that. They may forego an opportunity, and I'm just saying we shouldn't. in my other life, professionally, I have numerous jobs where I was well known how to spend money. Well, take for example, when it came to federal funding of education, when it first came out, Title I, vast amounts of money were given to states, and they did not know how to spend it right away. And I'd be called and saying, I remember one call in June. I was sitting at my desk and got a call from the state, and they said, John, you got to help us out. And I says, what do you mean I got to help you out? He says, we've got to spend $300,000 of a certain account before September. This was in June. Can you help us out? Because they don't want to be sending the money back. It'd be embarrassing. So I'm just using that as an example of what can happen. So I just want to say that we should have a plan on the shelf, think about what we want to do, and have a great deal of discussion about it. So that's the point I'm making. Thank you for bearing with me, by the way.
Anytime, John. All right, I want to get back to the agenda here. We do have some minutes to approve from February 3rd, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to look at those minutes?
Is that with the old colony
Yes.
minutes?
Yeah.
That's the one I read?
Yes.
Okay. I just have one question. Bob St. Jean was at that meeting, but he's on telephone. So we include him as being in the meeting and not absent?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make
Yeah, so do we have a, Kathy, do you have in front of you who was at the meeting?
Check.
I was missing.
Oh, yeah, I do have him there. I must have missed him. Oh, no, that's not me. Oh, wrong meeting. I don't have him there. I know he did miss one meeting. That might have been it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes of February 3rd?
Can I ask a question? I mean, the minutes, Kathy, they're extremely detailed and take a lot of effort to put them forward and to do they need to be as detailed as they are? Most of the boards I've been on, minutes tend to be pretty brief to kind of that's just the way I'm typically seeing them.
I appreciate the detail, Kathy.
I do too. I think the greatest minute. I meant to compliment you on those minutes that I've done in the past before.
Yeah.
I've always appreciated the in depth, and
There's a flip side, just that if you document too much, sometimes you can I've seen.
Well, there's a lot of information that sometimes we can call upon, and if we look at them and see sometimes discrepancies in testimony, so to speak.
Okay. Well, I just brought it up because it's a lot of effort, and I just wanted to make sure that it's appreciated. So it sounds like it is. So that's good then.
She's still smiling, so I guess.
Well, that way, if there's any issues, we can always back up what we talked about in detail. So it could come in handy at some point. But yeah, thank you. And so going back to that, do we have a motion?
Okay. Just for your information, I get the thing here. Absent was Bob St. Jean, Bob Ferrer, and Jacqueline Stanley. That's the three that were missing.
All right, so you guys won't be voting on those meetings, on those minutes.
I read them though.
I'll make a motion
I'll second.
Second.
to approve.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, so next week is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. So we have a meeting scheduled. Kathy, who do we have on the agenda next week?
So far, I have the town clerk, and I was going to reach out to the Kevin Gallagher for fire and EMS.
Okay.
Did you reach out to planning again?
I can try. I just haven't had any luck with him responding to me.
Well, he always responds to me for some reason, so I'll
I feel sad.
Maybe you should.
we're best friends. No, but I'll reach out to him if it'll help you a lot. I'll reach out to
That
him.
would be good
No
then.
problem.
Thank you.
All
Well,
right.
you're writing your minutes. I'll reach out to him.
He stood us up today.
I think it was a miscommunication.
Maybe.
So I'll get confirmation from him.
We're gonna tell him he has to bring coffee to the next meeting, even though we can't drink it.
He can deliver to the houses.
There you go.
Hey, Lisa did it with the paperwork. He can do it with coffee.
Hey, Julie or Mel, one question for you. I think some of the budget numbers we were hearing today is off from the book that we got.
Yes.
Do we know what the latest numbers are?
Yeah, so golf,
I want to know what our shortfall is.
you want to know what?
What our shortfall
Okay.
is.
So golf gave us a budget last week, and I was thinking about it. I was gonna try to share my screen, but he kept talking. So everyone seemed fine with it. So I was like, all right, let's see. Right now, so golf was an update, and I think I updated the Old Colony because theirs came in a little lower than what they had originally presented. It was like a $50,000 difference.
Yeah.
Right, so for revenue, so right now, with those changes, we're at $103,000 deficit.
Okay.
And I still don't have school, and I still don't have the COLAs or the unions plugged in because there was no agreement on the unions yet either. So.
I actually sat in or listened in on the school budget hearing today. Their budget's up almost 400,000, just so you know.
Gail,
We've got to
any
get that
sense on
stimulus
where it was
money.
coming from?
Pardon?
I'm just wondering, did they give a sense on where it was coming from?
Well, they had a bunch of decreases on the transportation side, and they're spending it on staff. There's like 8 full-time hires they're considering, and that is basically, where the increase is coming from. And curriculum, they've added a curriculum item to their budget in addition to the articles that I guess they're also going to be proposing. So unfortunately, it's tough. You listen to a meeting and they're putting things up on the screen and you're trying to write it all down. It's really difficult. So to, Sue's point last week, it would be absolutely fabulous to get their budget in advance of the meeting on the 24th. So you can kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't received it yet from them. I've asked, I haven't received it. And I did mention Kristen Flynn is the school business manager. She's great. I did let her know that you were looking for that line by line detail. So I don't know whether you'll get it or not, but I did let her know that you're looking for it.
Okay.
I didn't see the meeting, but I do know just in the other school I'm involved with it. Yeah, that transportation piece is a big piece with COVID. That's, where we had decreased costs this year, and it affects your reimbursements for next year. And there was some balancing going on, in the other school with trying to mitigate that change. So I'm not familiar with those numbers, but I do know that's something I think a lot of schools are dealing with right now.
Did they state that the 8 new positions were dealing with some of the effects of COVID? Or is it just that they had the money available and they wanted to enhance their curriculum.
Well, the curriculum needs enhancing apparently. So, I mean, that's one issue. A couple of these hires were intervention type people. And I guess they only have one intervention person for the whole district currently. So they want to add one. So there's one of each of the schools. And there was some other intervention. There was a library, somebody who media specialist or something like that they want to bring in. And honestly, I don't recall what the other positions were for, but it was a big nut. It's like $500,000.
Exactly. Because if it was like COVID related,
I don't think it is, John.
Yeah,
really
if it
don't
were,
think it
then we
is.
can look for the relief under this this bill. As I was driving at. But if it's something that if it isn't, then
I think some of the
every year they're adding more people in curriculum and moving staff into curriculum, and I don't know if I'm out of my league when I say whether we've become oversaturated in that area.
I couldn't.
That's my opinion.
I couldn't say. All I know is net it was up $400,000. So
I would say too that the COVID money is one-time revenue. So I don't think it would be smart to use that to fund your salaried people. Yeah, because that's one-time revenue. And if you're adding salaried people with that, the one-time revenue goes away and say next year or the year after, and you're stuck paying that with some other kind of money, with usually taxation. So
I mean, I do think
I know what you're saying.
I would use the COVID money even if we lose, if it was needed for that, saying more guidance people, we find that the youngsters are coming back to school. I know the figures that 20% could be possibly having some emotional challenges. So there's a real need here, to address. But just go strictly curriculum, and this time we're going in a different direction, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
that's only my opinion.
I agree. And again, I haven't seen anything from the school yet to give you kind of concrete stuff, but I agree. We're not losing any money. I know Melissa and her team has worked really hard with like the FEMA and the CARES to make sure that we are getting every last bit of money that, if they're giving us $932,000, we're going to get $932,000. We're not going to leave any money on the table for sure, but I just want to be careful that we know, if it ultimately comes down to that, we have to know that, one-time revenue for recurring costs is going to cause a problem in the future.
Yep.
That's all.
And I do think they loaded their budget. It's like everybody, but they loaded their budget. So we'll see.
So they're leaving, Gail, they're leaving you to be the bad guy.
The one.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying I went to the meeting and this is what I come away with. So we'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Okay, and I don't think COVID money should be used to spend on salaries, but that's just my opinion.
I think it would be shortchanging this community by doing that. What are you going to do? Just spend it on supplies and
building maintenance.
Yeah, roof repairs, roads, constructions, long-term stuff.
There's a need for youngsters to get, as I said, the type of services and we should not in any way walk away from that.
I think, John, this needs.
But it's not our fault. Excuse me. It's not our fault that the COVID. It comes from the federal ineptness of the federal government. And so they must pay the bills.
Right.
We should not try to deal with that out of local money because it's not our fault on the local
I think
level.
this is a topic for another meeting.
I think we should wait till the school budget comes in before we start.
No, it's just opinion, but I think it's good to banter it around.
We can talk about COVID all night long when the school comes in if you want, John. That's fine.
Okay, oh, hey,
Okay,
what is that, invitation?
okay, all right. So does anybody else have anything to discuss tonight? If we don't, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week on the 17th.
Thanks, Mike.